This is the Nations Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. The more footage we see of this firework display going on over in Tel Aviv, over Israel, I think the more we can all start questioning the actual existence of the Iron Dome. Now, when the first events occurred back in 2023, where supposedly we had a parachute that broke through the Iron Dome, a parachuter from Hamas broke through the Iron Dome. We were all questioning at the time the Iron Dome's ability and why all of a sudden the Iron Dome was turned off, leaving Israel vulnerable to an attack. Well, now suddenly we see Israel attack Iran, supposedly, and all we're seeing on the flip side are missiles coming in and hitting locations inside of Israel. So it needs to obviously be examined because it should be telling us, based on the narratives that are out there, a few things: that practically the Iron Dome itself is a psyop, and really what it is an actual surveillance state where the government uses mass surveillance and drones to monitor and track all communications within that area. And obviously we know the role that Palantir plays in all of this with artificial intelligence and surveillance, as I've covered multiple times over the last couple of weeks. So some of the narratives that are out there are just very, very suspicious and should make us more and more look at what they're actually trying to do here. So they obviously want to show us Israel getting attacked to victimize Israel, so it doesn't look completely like Israel blindsided Iran. And really the only people who are in the line of fire are the civilians and the citizens. So number one, they're doing that. And number two, what you're noticing is that the mainstream media in America is backpedaling because they have to make sure, while you see all this activity going on in Israel and you look at Israel as the victim, that you also understand why the Iron Dome isn't suddenly working and how Iran is actually able to get bombs into Israel. And they don't want you to think about Donald Trump's Golden Dome, because then your brain might actually start functioning and you might say, why would we spend all this money on a Golden Dome in America if the Iron Dome itself can't even protect that small piece of land over in the Middle East? Why would we try to create this in the United States of America? Because, of course, we know they're trying to create the Golden Dome surveillance state. They don't want you to think like that. They don't want your brain to suddenly start working where you look at some of the footage you're seeing and you start saying to yourself, yeah, that wouldn't make sense. That doesn't seem to be working. It doesn't seem like a good idea. So while they're showing you the bombings, they're also backpedaling as much as they can with articles and video clips like this: why Iran's capability to break through Israel's Iron Dome is surprising. So really what people should be saying to themselves is either the Iron Dome is a psyop and it's not really what they claim that it is, this missile defense system, and it's really just code for bringing in mass surveillance and drone surveillance, or Israel is actually allowing the bombs to come through and hit specific targets in Israel, which means, of course, they'd be working together to hit certain specific locations. Because if you think the people that are actually being reported as dead are actually dying, then you don't really understand why the news is manufactured. All these Iranian military leaders that they're claiming are dying in the line of fire, it's really civilians that are the mass casualties in all of this. And on top of all of that, the first couple of days, the narrative that was out there was that the United States assisted Israel in shooting down Iranian missiles. Now, we know that they're very much going to play into the United States and Israel working hand in hand so that when they create a false flag in America, that'll be blamed on Iran. They could unite Israel and America even more in the public eye. But even these stories that are out there, you have to take a look at, including the United States is assisting to shoot down Iranian missiles. So the common civilian should be saying, why would the U.S. be involved in this in the first place, right? That's the main topic that most people are talking about. Why are we getting involved? We don't want to get involved in Israel's war. We don't want to get involved in a war with Iran. It's too dangerous for America. That's the talking point that's out there that the media wants out there. But really the talking point should be, what's with the Iron Dome? And why is it that America has to assist in shooting down Iranian missiles? Because all the stories that are coming in are about locations getting hit in Israel and how America has to come to the aid of Israel and their supposed ironclad Iron Dome once again. And also keep a lookout for this clip that's going around. It's hilarious, where we have an Iranian newscaster who is supposedly ranting on the air, and then a bomb goes off inside of the studio trying to tell you that they're bombing the Iranian studio, the media and the press out there, not really the civilians and the people. They're going after, the Iranian military leaders. They're going after the Iranian mainstream media, who's the enemy of the state, right? Because, of course, everybody's going to look at Iranian media and say that it's all propaganda, but all state-run media is propaganda, and every single mainstream media outlet in America certainly is propaganda. So take a look at that clip as well.
But I do want to get over to Monica Alba at the White House. Monica, the control room telling me you got some new reporting.
Yeah, that's right, Tom. So we were just discussing a few minutes ago this new development of the U.S. aiding in shooting down some of these Iranian projectiles that have been targeting Israel. That's according to 3 U.S. officials. And my colleagues who cover the Pentagon, Courtney Cubie, reporting now also that the Pentagon did move a number of military assets into the region in recent days. Now, again, that's something that we see time and time again when you have a situation like the one that we are witnessing. But to give you a little bit more detail, that included some Navy destroyers to be positioned off the Israeli coast to help shoot down some of these missiles, again, like we're seeing right now, and then other aerial attacks that could be expected after the Israelis launched their initial attack yesterday. So why is that notable? Again, this is a situation where the U.S. has this kind of specific technology, they have the resources, and they have the ability to mobilize them and move them quickly. And it's really important to point out here, Tom, that there are thousands and thousands of Americans who live in Israel. And so it's also a U.S. interest to protect their lives and also to protect certain military assets that the United States would have there and in the region. So that's another explanation and more detail that we're getting from U.S. officials about why that's happening. And I can also share with you that according to Downing Street, so according to the British Prime Minister, he held a conversation as well with President Trump at some point today. They are closely monitoring that as well. So I think this is really a day of behind the scenes, the president holding a lot of different calls with some world leaders, monitoring the situation, and of course overseeing the role that the U.S. is playing as these strikes continue.
This morning, a powerful Iranian missile slipped through Israeli air defenses, smashing into a bus terminal north of Tel Aviv. The missile dug a deep crater in the upscale suburb of Herzliya and burned the area. In Iran, Israeli strikes are unrelenting. Israel says its jets have now full air superiority over Tehran and that it's destroyed a third of Iran's missile launchers. And Israel isn't just targeting the military. Iranian state TV was live on air, an anchor appearing defiant, when suddenly Israel bombed the building. Most Iranians only have access to state TV, so it was a warning to Iranians that Israel can strike when and where it chooses. The escalating conflict is putting the entire Middle East on edge. Imagine seeing this out of your plane window. This video appears to show what passengers saw from a commercial flight as Iranian missiles on their way to Israel streaked through the sky. It's little wonder why airspace across the region has either been closed or disrupted. In an interview with ABC, Prime Minister Netanyahu says the threat from Iran extends to the United States.
Today it's Tel Aviv, tomorrow it's New York. I understand America first. I don't understand America dead. That's what these people want.
In Israel, some Iranian missiles are causing casualties, including in this apartment building outside Tel Aviv on Monday.
My mother, as I said, my father...
We followed Lucy Bukai up to her family's 10th floor apartment. It's trashed, windows shattered, no power.
So what is it like for you to see your family house like this?
It's... I have no words. It's just... I feel it's a movie. It's a bad movie.
Her baby's bed is covered in glass. She does not want to come back.
How? How can you continue to live here if such thing can happen?
Israel is also continuing its attacks against Iran's military leaders. Israel announcing this morning that it had killed Iran's newly appointed wartime chief of staff. Laura, back to you.
Richard, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, so America is assisting in shooting down missiles. Nobody's asking questions as to why. So the media has to come out and spin this. So that's why you see some of these stories now, which try to give you an explanation as to why Iran's missiles are able to get through the Iron Dome. Like some of these headlines, Iran claims new ballistic missile tactic allowed breach of Israel air defenses. So they're trying to they're trying to explain to you why this is happening without your brain actually processing the validity of the Iron Dome, being that in America they want to build out this surveillance dome with Donald Trump, that they'll obviously show us lots of propaganda on the news to make us think that there's these huge missiles on the coast that are protecting us from Russia and protecting us everywhere else, and we need to fly drones above to keep an eye on everything, to make sure everybody's safe, and we need more border control, and so, of course, to keep you locked in, trapped inside, because you're really the enemy of the state that they're so concerned about. So the other thing that was in there that I thought really reminded me of Wag the Dog is the Iranian newscaster who even gave us a look directly into the camera as the bomb's hitting, because that's a natural response. Even had a little bit of a smirk on her face as the bomb went off, and it looked like something right out of Wag the Dog.
And look at this video. An Iranian anchorwoman is live on air reporting on the military strikes when the state media center she's reporting from takes a direct hit from an Israeli missile. She makes a run for it as smoke and debris fill the screen.
Now, if you haven't seen Wag the Dog, it's the truth in plain sight. They show you how they manufacture wars in front of a green screen and then play it on the news so that the population thinks that that's actually what's going on. And I'm not saying that things aren't being blown up, that people aren't being killed, but it's the illusion of war that's taking place. These governments are working and conspiring together against the people. There's mass genocide occurring, but there's no war between one military and the other military. It's literally an attack on civilians' homes, on locations like hospitals. That's why you can see some of these stories. And then they try to push it away by saying, oh, the missile went astray and they hit a hospital by accident. How many times have we heard that over the last couple of months with all these conflicts that are going on? Oops, they hit a hospital. They weren't supposed to. Oops, they're hitting civilians' homes. What about all these treaties that they signed where acts of war are not supposed to be taken against the people? So then they go out of their way to show you the Iranian news building getting bombed, or to tell you that all these Iranian military leaders are really the ones being attacked, because they don't want you to feel sympathy for the people. They don't want the people to unite against these vicious, sinister psychopaths who are responsible for all of these conflicts and all of these supposed wars, which again aren't really wars, because the illusion of war is one military fighting another military. That's what war is, right? You just imagine the old World War II videos they put out. Oh, it's American troops versus those other guys. And look, they're fighting in the field. The Germans and Americans are fighting. Or Vietnam, the Vietnamese and the U.S. troops are battling out in the middle of the rice fields, right? They don't want you to realize that what this is just a bombing of civilians, because that's all that it actually is. But this is from Wag the Dog, how they manufacture war. You can't tell me that the clip of the news anchor doesn't look very similar to this.
I'm in show business, yes? Why come to me?
You know why?
Why?
It's show business. That's why we're here. V for victory. 5 Marines raising the flag. Mount Suribachi. One video of one bomb, Mr. Morse. The American people bought that war. War is show business.
You want me to produce your war? Not a war, it's a pageant. We need a theme, a song, some visuals. We need... Okay, good. Put the village behind her.
Give me some flames. Some sound of screaming.
That girl. Doesn't she look Albanian? She looks like she was born and raised in Albania.
Mm-hmm.
Could she be running across a bridge? I think,
A pond.
I think it's a calico kitten. He's running across with a kitten. Boy, punch in a calico kitten. I have 19 screens here. I can't see one calico kitten.
We have a small calico kitten, sir. Calico.
What?
The president wants a white one.
He wants a white one.
How soon do you think we'll be able to get this cut?
Oh, we're going to be done in about 4 or 5 hours.
And this just in, a Newsbreak special report that the young Albanian national fleeing in this video is attempting to escape terrorist reprisals in her village. America has seldom witnessed a more poignant picture of the human race than that which armed conflict.
Fantastic.
So the perception of what's going on is obviously the most important thing to them. keeping you believing one side's the victim versus the other side not being the victim, being the aggressor. Somehow they've convinced people that Israel is the victim, and that's what they always have to do. Obviously, we know that. But they're going to stumble when they do conflicts because there's going to be people who choose the opposing side. So they have to make sure they continue to victimize themselves. They have to obviously create false flags to side the U.S. with Iran, which will lead to false flags on U.S. soil. You can guarantee it. Sometime in the coming months, if not weeks, there will be some false flag events. Maybe even most people think July the 4th, there's going to be a false flag, which would seem a bit over the top. But the way that they're performing these false flags now, with the crisis actors, with the storylines, they're so pathetic and so bad. They could do one on the 4th of July and most people wouldn't even blink that it was some type of government operation. They would just get even more angry that Iran attacked the U.S. on July the 4th, on Independence Day. This is an act of war. And then, of course, dragging the United States into war. But the real thing people should be asking when they see this stuff are the questions that I presented. The questions about how in the world can you tell us about this Iron Dome and then try to market it and sell it to Americans, calling it a golden dome. And then when you do this conflict, you're showing the United States has to come in and help the Iron Dome out because the Iron Dome can't handle what's happening. They're getting outsmarted by ballistic missiles. And then they try to give you an excuse as to why the U.S. is involved, an excuse as to why some of the missiles are getting through. And of course, make sure they go out of their way to tell you that the only people being harmed are the big bad military leaders, these bad, mean, evil people, by showing you their mugshots on the news. And then, of course, not reporting on the civilian casualties that we continually see all around the earth from these monsters who continue to do this and then manufacture the news into making you think that these are governments in conflict with one another, when it's really governments working together with one another against the people. So let me know if you think that the Iron Dome is an actual psyop or you believe the narrative that's out there. I think more and more people, it's creeped up into their head that the Iron Dome isn't what they claim that it is, because it wouldn't make any sense for any of these attacks to happen on Israeli soil. Of course, you can look at it from the other perspective that they're allowing it to occur or that maybe they're doing it to themselves. I mean, we know that the name of the game right now is sabotage of all governments around the earth. They're all committing sabotage to bring in this global AI governance system that they all have been having wet dreams about for the last 20 years, hoping that they would get people so addicted to their technology that they'd be able to get away with bringing in a technocracy or a communist technocracy, which is what it really truly is. But you can't make some of this stuff up that's out there. The woman on the news, I mean, it's comical. A lot of this stuff is comical. The way that they peddle the propaganda by telling you for weeks and weeks and weeks about a golden dome and all these MAGA people want a golden dome. Then they show you all these bombs hitting Israel and none of them are going, is the Iron Dome even real? Is it even possible? Can they even create that? I mean, because Israel's a lot smaller than the entire United States of America. So then they put more propaganda out there from the G7 summit telling us that Canada really wants in. They really want to be a part of this Iron Dome. Yeah, they want to be a part of the surveillance dome that they're creating, because that's all that it truly is in my belief. I thank everybody again for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.